Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I thought I would do a quick winter scene with a little bit of color. So for now, sit back, enjoy this relaxation of oil painting. Okay everyone, let's get started. I have a double primed 18 by 24 inch canvas. This time I'm laying it horizontally here. I've already primed it with some liquid white, which allows the paint to move and mix on the canvas on the fly. We're ready to go. I already have my colors laid out on the palette. I have my brushes ready to go. And of course we have our friend Bob watching us. Again, I'm no Bob Ross. I'm just a novice, but I like to paint for relaxation, and I hope you enjoy this creation. I'm going to start with a little bit of bright red here. Bright red's a very powerful color, so you really don't need much on the brush. It goes a long way. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to paint here, but I know that it's going to start here. I think I will have more of a glow, perhaps coming from this direction for a change. So I'm going to start here with a little bit of red, just adding this into the canvas here. Maybe this is a sunrise or a sunset, we're not quite sure yet. Paint is very strong, so we don't need a lot. And then I'm just going to reflect a little bit of this down here into the foreground. Obviously if it's snow, it'll reflect. I'm using a little bit of Indian yellow here to get kind of a, let's make it a bit more orange color up here. Changing the hue a little bit, drawing this out. Now we'll go a little bit more into the yellow, bringing that up. I don't want to mix these too much. And then I'm going to go into a little alizarin crimson, a little Prussian blue. I want a fairly dark color, but much more red. The blue's very strong, so much more crimson than blue. This will be the dark night sky coming in, almost a purplish color. And I'm just adding in some crisscross strokes here. Not going to blend yet. Bring a little of these clouds in here maybe. Add a little bit of mystery. And then I'm just going to add some of this dark color underneath here. Don't know if you can see. I'll try to keep my shoulder out of the way at some point. Just going to add some of this color down here. I'm just blocking in color down on the base of the painting. You need darkness to show the light. So these shadows here will end up in our foreground. It's a little strange because you have to block in the color first. And I'm not too concerned, I'm just blocking in color. That's all. Getting this ready to go. Sorry I have to be in front of the canvas, but this takes a lot of pressure. I promise I'll move in a moment. Now with a clean dry brush, I'm going to start to blend this out. so that the sky is softer. Blending in these colors here, mixing them together. Have quite a hue here, don't we? Quite a hue of colors. Get some purples, some blues, some reds, orange, yellow. The whole Roy G. Biv is here with us. This is darker here. I want this darker. So that's kind of a different type of sky. It's kind of got some brightness to it. Now I'm going to add a little bit more light. And for that I'm just going to use a fan brush here. See this fan brush? This is what happens when you forget to wash one. Obviously I left the paint on from the last painting and the brush is ruined now. Once oil paint dries, which takes many days, that brush is just ruined. Can't use it for anything now. So don't forget to clean your brushes after each session. To go to the art store and pick up some more. So I'm just going to add some white to the painting here. Maybe a little bit of cloud work. So I like how these are highlighted. I'm just going to add a touch of that Indian yellow. I don't want this to be pure white. I want it to be kind of white and yellow together. Let's see how this brings us here. Let's add a couple of clouds in. So I want some brightness on the edges here of these clouds. A little bit of brightness. I'm going to add a touch of liquid white. The liquid white is a type of thinning paint, so when you put liquid white on your paint, it will hold to a thicker paint. Moving in here, adding some clouds in. Picking up some of that yellow. Coming up here, putting a cloud in. And I'm just looking for the shapes right now of the white. Coming across, here's one. Going across the red sky. Keeping that white and slightly yellow tint to it. Here's one that's a bit more yellow up here. By using these different colors, you'll get different hues. Sometimes I just do a plain blue sky, but sometimes I want some color, some drama. I always found that the skies that had more clouds in them were more exciting to look at later on when the painting is done. Let's put a red cloud here, kind of this one. Look at that. It's going to string across. This just breaks up the monotony of the colors. Kind of creates some shapes here. There's a red one coming across. A little bit of red here. A little bit more of that yellow. There's a dark one. Maybe put a darker cloud here with some crimson. So this is where it's getting dark toward the stars up here. And I just want to create this mystery of a deep sky. Let's put a little bit over here. Bring this across. And And when you go toward the surface, or I should say toward the horizon, the clouds get much thinner because they're farther away. So we're just giving an illusion of depth here, like there's many clouds going across the sky. Now when I blend this in a minute, you'll see where I'm going. Again, I apologize when my arm gets in the way and stuff, but I have to use my right and my left hand when I'm painting. Kind of have to be ambidextrous. Now, that's kind of a cool sky. Now, when I blend this very lightly with a clean, dry brush, I'm just very slowly going to push this back a bit. Ever so slightly blending. This is going to soften up what we've painted. Because I really don't, in order to make what's next, which is the snowy mountains, to pop, you have to kind of dull down this background sky. I don't want everything too detailed where it's that many miles away. Then I just go across lightly to get rid of the brush strokes so that when it's dry it doesn't deflect and look weird under the light. A little bit of thing there. I want that part really soft. That's way against the horizon. So you can see there we have a pretty decent sky. We have some oranges, some reds, some purples, some blues. I mean, it just has everything. I like that though. That's a very colorful sky, very interesting looking. Give me a moment while I clean a brush. I'm just using paint thinner. You can buy buckets with screens in the bottom. Get some paper towel here to clean. If I know I'm not going to use these brushes with the same color, I will take the time to clean them. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. So how's your day going? What are you guys up to? Are you just laying around, vegetating, watching me, in and out of sleep maybe? How's your life going? Good, bad, in the middle? Boring day to day? Seems like nowadays I find a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are really sad. Almost without meaning in life. And I've always been a firm believer that meaning comes from within. You can create your own destiny, create your own good and bad days. No one's perfect. Something like this, where I paint, or I read, or I hike, or spend time with loved ones, that gives me joy. What is it that gives you joy? What do you love to do that really just makes you feel alive? You might have several things that you do, maybe some sort of activities outside the house. Maybe you really enjoy your family time. But what is it you like to do? I also like to play music. Love to play guitar and piano and drums. You name it, I like it. Not very good, but I like it. But it's not about being good, it's just about picking it up and doing it. Like painting, you have to be kind of brave to paint. But whatever it is you're doing, I hope you're having fun. Okay, let's make some mountains, some big ones. So I'm going to need a palette knife. Against the light we need dark. So I have to have, let's see, I'm going to pick up some Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, some midnight black. I just need a dark color. A little bit more on the red side today. Just mixing this up on my palette. I can't see the exact hue of this, but I know it's dark. And then what you want to do is just spread the paint out, take a little cut, little roll of paint. So I've loaded up the knife here with a little, don't know if you can see that, just a tiny roll of paint at the edge of the knife to work on our mountain peaks. Let's see, where do we want to put our mountain? I'm going to leave the middle open. Let's put it off to the right here. So I'm going to put, oh yeah, big mountain. This is the bravery test here, where we go up and create some big mountains. Can't have fear doing this. You'll hear the scraping of the canvas. I'm just putting the color in here. Again, as I said on my last painting I did, you only care about the edges of the mountain. I don't care what happens in between, because it's all going to be painted out. We have that come down here. Have this come down. There we go. And I think I'll put a second mountain on this side. I think I'll fade this out, so I'm going to leave that where it is. Now we're going to take another 2-inch brush, make sure it's clean and dry, and I'm just going to smooth this out so you'll see where I go. Follow the lay of the land, so as the mountain comes in, that's where I take the brush stroke. If it's to the right, take it to the right, to the left, take it to the left, and just start to pull the paint down. Leave the edges where they are, and you can see how this will smooth out. This is one of the magic parts of this technique, just bringing this out. And then as you naturally pull this down, you're going to get it mixing with the liquid white and lightening in color. This is going to be misty down here. So you can see how quickly that makes a nice silhouetted mountain. Now you could leave it like that. I have done paintings where I don't put any color on it. It's a little bit boring, but when you think of a bright sky behind the mountain itself is going to be quite dark at this time of night or morning, however you decide. Don't know if I want a second mountain there. What do you guys think? Perhaps just a single, and maybe I'll have trees over here. It's a hard decision. When you get your own canvas and paints, you can create however you want. think that's good for now. I'm going to put a little bit of highlight on that. So if we want this to be like a snow mountain of some sort, I want to put almost straight white with just a little bit of yellow and red. So I have my titanium white and just a touch of the red to make it a softer, almost a pinkish glow to it. So it's not straight white here. Now I'm going to drag this out, put a little roll of paint. Let's see what we can create here. Just a little roll. I think that's too big. There we go. Just a little roll of white paint at the edge of the knife. Light's coming from the left here, so that's where we start. Ever so slightly touching. Ever so slightly touching, allowing this paint to break, which will bring all these holes in the snow and the peaks here. Just bring this down ever so slightly, barely touching. I'm barely touching, following the shape of the mountain here. Pulling these down, a little bit of light there. So these highlights really look kind of cool from back here. Let's pull this down. Pushes that one back. See, just by making that little line, it pushes that secondary peak way back. I'll bring this out a bit. Just touching. If you pull too hard, it's just going to get rid of all the nice little nooks and crannies in there. Now this one I'm going to put a touch more yellow. Watch this. I'm going to highlight this a little bit more fiery. Yeah. Just a touch here. It's going to pick up part of the sky. See it? Just a touch over here too. Now what you can do, this is kind of cool. Watch me pull this mountain in front. Watch this. It's just going to instantly push that one back. So just by doing that, you push that back peak. Now I'll make a little bit of a shadow color. This will be colder. So I want to use a little bit of blue, just a touch. I'm making this almost a grayish blue color. This would be the shadows. Obviously not the same lightness. And you can see I'm obviously going to the right, to the peak. And by following this, you can see how it creates the illusion of shadow. Let's take this a little bit down here. A little bit here. See how you can push peaks around just using shadows here? Let's go there. That's nice. I want this to come out more. I'm going to put a shadow here. That's where the hikers go. Up the pass. Angles are important here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Wanted that angle. So you see we have a very basic mountain shape. Taking the same dirty brush here, and I'm just going to gently lift the bottom. And then I'm going to diffuse it here, because the bottom would be much more diffused by light. So there's no detail in the bottom. Bringing it up. This is where the clouds come in. So there, the mountain sits in the painting. And then if you want, you can go back and take a little more highlight. Just a little bit of straight white here if you really want the peak to pop. And you can just touch. Just touching makes a third layer of brightness. You don't have to, but it adds a little extra snow. Simple mountain. Okay. Now with the mountain comes foothills. So here's where we make a decision. I think I still want this to be more of a snowy painting. So I'm going to make some foothills more in the bluish tinge. So let's grab some Prussian blue, midnight, a little bit of phthalo blue. This is a warmer blue, some white. Really loading the brush in here. I want this to be quite light. Touch more blue. Let's add some foothills. Now this mountain I can tell is going to have a foothill right here going down. And then this way. See, this one just drifts off to the side here. So now we're starting to create the lay of the land. What's the curvature of the earth that we want here? Perhaps it all kind of drifts down. Now using a clean dry brush, if I just lift slightly, gives the illusion of thousands of trees. It's hard to pick up in the camera, but I can see it here in detail. And then I just smooth out the bottom here. Second layer will be darker because it's coming forward. Adding a lot of paint to the brush. Now let's really start to push this back. So I'm going to have a mountain or a pass come down here. So you can see the different layers we're getting. Here's a darker layer now that's kind of hooking it in. And then we're going to push this right back here. Let's do something radical. I'm going to come right down. This is like a valley. Let's get some more of that color. Let's do this. I want to make this hill up more. Watch this. I want to make this rise. It's like maybe Vermont or something. I want this to really come up. Like a real steep hill here. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's amazing what you can do with this 2-inch brush. Of detail. So there you have a hill. You can see the far hills in the back. You have this hill in the middle foreground here. Mountains way back there. Perhaps just a touch more here. I want to stress that mountain path. You can see this goes right up the mountain here. Here's a tree line. Yeah, cool. Not a lot of detail yet, but that's because it's in the background. We don't need a lot of detail right now. It's a big canvas. Sometimes these are too big for me. You know, the smaller the canvas, you can get so much more done faster. But we're in no rush today. I was watching Bob Ross just the other day, and that's him there. You've seen him on PBS. I used to watch him as a kid. I started painting, you know, when I was just probably a young teenager. And I was always fascinated when I saw him on PBS on Channel 2. Whenever he came on, here's this ex-military guy who's used to be, you know, a lot harder of a man when he was younger, and then he of course softened as he got older. Big afro, and he would just sit there and paint, and he would just create magic in such a fast time. The shows were only about 28 minutes long, and he could do a whole painting. And I was just blown away because he could create so quickly. And Bob Ross learned from William Alexander, who was the original Wet on Wet creator, if I'm not mistaken. William Alexander, I think he's Prussian or German, one of the two. He had a very thick accent, big guy, much older. He was in his 60s, I think, when he started on PBS. And he would say, like, fire in! He had quite an accent. He was very inspiring. I guess he was Bob Ross's teacher or mentor, and then Bob Ross took the style and really just blew it up, really made it 10 times better. I actually own a William Alexander painting upstairs that I invested in. To find a Bob Ross painting is very difficult because Bob donated all of his paintings to the local PBS stations, and I assumed many of them were auctioned off to create money to keep the programs running. I read that in several places. So Bob, he was probably very wealthy, but it's because of his paint supplies that he created. So a lot of these paints that I'll show you here, see how it says Bob Ross on it. The Bob Ross Company, with a net, they made all their money through the product. So it would be canvases and the liquid white and all the oil paintings, all the different specialized brushes, because these are specialized. That's where Bob Ross made his money. And of course, traveling around teaching, he had hundreds of teachers around the country. But his paintings are hard to find, and I've looked online, and they're tens of thousands of dollars if you want to buy one, if you can find one. I've seen plates that he painted when he was in Alaska, just a simple plate with a scene on it, and those are $7,000-8,000. A William Alexander you could just find for a couple thousand if you can find them. but they're not quite as beautiful as Bob Ross's, but I like them all. So he's always been kind of a hero. And so interestingly enough, now that he's died, he's become way more popular, especially with the younger crowd. I know several people that love to watch Bob Ross on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever, because he's kind of a father figure. He's an archetype of this older, wise gentleman who doesn't need to use violence. He has a soft voice. He's gentle. He creates. He's like almost like a father figure that a lot of the younger people don't have in their life. Plus, he has a good sense of humor. He cares about the environment and animals. He's just someone that you want to kind of emulate and be like. And when young people say, "Yeah, I watch Bob Ross all the time, and then I fall asleep," I'm like, that's what he would want. He would want you to de-stress from the stresses of the world. He would want us all to just relax and enjoy nature, because life is so short, it's so brief. We are only on this planet for a few decades, and every day should be cherished. Every day should be enjoyed and appreciated, and to let go of the small stuff in life. The world doesn't care about the small stuff that we're torturing ourselves over. And the best way sometimes to clear your mind is just to sleep and relax and paint and create music and just relax. Have fun. Making money, all this stuff is okay, but it's not going to keep us alive any longer. Every famous person we've ever seen is long gone. And I guarantee if we could call them from the grave, they would say, "I want more time. I want more time to relax and to love and to share my time with friends. It's not about what I possess or my status or how famous I am. It doesn't matter how famous we are. We're all going to go one day. So why not just enjoy this time and create something that might outlive us, that we can pass down to our children?" That's the whole point of Bob's painting. He wasn't a fine artist, nor am I. A lot of these are crappy, you know, but they're fun, and we're doing something with our time. We're creating. It's a lot better than sitting around regretting everything we didn't do. And when you see this painting, you may like it the way it is now, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to wreck it for you, because I want to be bold, and what I see is not what you see. That's why painting is so subjective. Our lives are subjective. Everything we do is subjective, and everything that you do, you're going to have critics and people that like what you do. Don't listen to the critics. Critics most often don't do anything. They just criticize. Okay, now I'm going to add some snow. I want snow, so I need a fan brush. Put some white on here. Actually, let's use a 2-inch or a 1-inch brush, because you can make some amazing stuff with a big brush here. Watch this. Just taking straight titanium white. Really loading that brush up. Let's start to make the lay of the land. So from here, making some snow. Down the hill we go, sledding. Look at that, how quickly we can make a field of snow. That fast. That fast, make a field. We can sled with the kids. Don't kill all those bright spots. Here comes another one. Just doing this, creating this sledding area. Pulling down some of the shadows of the other color. Look at that. Instantly. How cool is that? Just a big field of snow. Looks kind of cold down there, even though it's a warm sky. It's kind of cold. Now, in order to push that back, you want more layers, you have to put dark again. So it's light, dark, light, dark. It's always that dance that makes things creative. What I do want to do immediately is I want to put some trees here to come down, right there. And then I want to make some darkness. I might even want to put some water. I'm not sure yet what I want to do here. I guess I could create a little bit of water, which is pretty easy to do. We can create a pond. We have the power. Watch this. Just by pulling this, and you'll see where I'm going in a minute. This is eventually going to create water. Just putting that dark color, you'll see. You'll see when I'm done. But leave this little light part here because that's the reflection of the sun, which you would naturally see. You don't want to make it all dark. Could be ice. Now let's put some trees because the trees will dictate the foreground. We have a lot of room. Let's put... I want to put a tree here that's going to come up and cover part of the mountain. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to make the base of a tree. To do that, I'm using dark colors. Browns, blues, black, alizarin. Mostly brown. I want this really dark. Show you where I'm going. I'm going to create a big tree. Because I don't want to kill some of this foreground. I want to actually make the tree that's going to come down to the base. So I'm putting a lot of paint on this brush and bringing it to an edge, a really fine edge. Let's start right here. So from coming down here, it's going to build this tree up. Coming up here. It's the part where they go, ruined! Ruined, he ruined it! Have to be brave to make foreground, it'll never work. Dark tree. Let's put one over here. I'll show you where we're going, I promise. Boom, big one. Cutting through the sky. Bring the base down here. This is darker. This one goes off. Lighter toward the sky, darker toward the ground. I don't know if you can see this. Camera picking that up? Good. It's a lot quicker than the small brush, but we will get that out too. Changes the tone, doesn't it, when you put a tree? It really does change the tone. And you could put as many trees as you want. I'm just putting a couple here. A lot of paintings I see have dozens of these, dozens. This one goes right off the edge, boom, and maybe it comes back in. Look at this, it comes back into the fold. Just going to lay a little bit of base here. A little foliage. I'll show you where that goes in a few minutes. It's very relaxing. A lot of other stuff I could be doing, but I choose to be here with you doing this. Okay, now I'm going to make some fine branches. Need what we call a script or liner brush. That's a good one. Getting some paint thinner on it because I want this to be consistency of ink. So I'm really loading this up to make it like ink. Getting a lot of paint in the brush, thinning it out with paint thinner, different blacks, blues, brown, a little bit more. Twisting the brush to make it thin, like a Sharpie or a pen. And then I can start to create some branches here, just some, needs even more thinner. Remember, thin paint will stick to a thick paint. This you could spend hours on if you took the time. I was watching a fine painter a couple weeks ago, and he just spent hours on these branches. Now what I'm going to do in a minute is probably what you did not expect. You think I'm going to leave these this way? Nope. I'm just setting a foundation. I'm going to put leaves on these. In a minute. But this stuff will show through under the leaves. So I want these on here. And don't make all the trees straight, like telephone poles. You want them to have gnarls in them and stuff. Trees don't normally grow very straight. A lot of them are pretty beaten up from the winter. Now let's put some leaves on them. So they'll have to be dark. And do I have a round brush? Well, I have a semi-round. I'm going to leave this brush here because I want to revisit that one. I'm going to use one of these small brushes here to get these leaves in. So for that we need, again, dark black, blue, brown, alizarin here. Load this full of paint, full of paint. You can hear it probably on the mic even, this paint loading up. Just full of paint. And we start to add leaves. Thinking about the shape of the tree. So by adding this paint, everything gets shoved back. Colors really pop now. Boom. Think about each branch, the shape where the leaves would be, how they cross over. Yeah, that one pops way out into the foreground. How tall do you want your tree to be? Sorry I'm not talking so much. I'm kind of having fun. Takes some concentration. I want that to be quite dark. There, dark. See? Putting the dark makes this pop. Now more dark. Just bringing this here creates these bushes. Now instantly, check this out. I'm going to use that white brush if I can find it. Here it is. Get some more of the titanium white. this will just naturally pull some of that shadow down. You can see it now, see? Snow comes down this hill. Remember to go with the shape of the land. So this would go right to left and down. If this is a hill, it has to come down even toward us in the foreground. So now with the darkness, you can see we have the light, medium, dark. It kind of just frames it nicely. And it does kind of pull your eye here. This is focal point, focal point, focal point, dark. No detail, just dark. I can add some highlights here, which I will do in a moment. Let's put a fence. I can just see perhaps this is someone's land. I like the idea of not showing humans in the painting, but perhaps a fence. I really like fences. So let's take a few minutes and really do a fence here. Again, I'm still using this dark color that I'm adding paint thinner to make the poles of the fence. The fence is going to come down right to left. Let's have the fence come completely across. So maybe it starts somewhere back here. You know, it's coming through, coming down the hill. Maybe it's an old farm. Don't make the poles all perfect by any means. Maybe this is going to be buried in snow. I'll show you in a minute. Here it comes through here. Well, there's this pole. There's one you can see behind the tree, maybe even another here. I'll show you how to connect those. Comes down. Going to connect at some point. Making these a bit wider here. That's a big one. I don't just want them to be lines. I'm going to add a little snow to this tops. Just do that with a little touch of liquid white. Just making a little dab there. Create snow on the top, or the illusion thereof. And then if I want a little bit of highlight, just a touch, I'll just take a little bit of brown. You probably can't see this on the camera. I'm just making it more than one color, so it's not too boring. Now let's make the connecting posts, because there would be some. Fence might still be intact. Again, I want this like ink. Really rolling the brush to the very tip. Very thin. Ever so slight touch. That one broke. See how it broke? I have to make up a story. Here's where a deer broke through. Broke the fence. Look at that. Broken. Here's one that's broken too. Make up little stories. Goes around the back of the hill. We don't know where it goes. Maybe it comes down through. This detail's fun to do. Isn't that cool? Got a little fence going through the middle of the field. Then we can take a little bit of this here, a little white. Maybe just a touch of the yellow. Mostly white. Look at that, yeah. So what did that do? It instantly pushes that fence under the snow. See that? Check this out. I want to make a hill. Boom! Hill made. There's another one, a bump, maybe. And then just by drawing this line, it creates another plane. Snow is very easy. A lot of blending involved. So we have a simple scene. Now we have a little bit of structure to it. This fence kind of catches your eye here. And then I'm going to make more dark. Again, I don't want to leave everything light. I don't think I'm going to make water here. I think I'm going to just bring some foreground foliage in. I was thinking of putting some pine trees in, but I don't know. This scene might not want pine trees. They're kind of overused. Maybe one. I might put a pine tree here, cover this, and then bring it down with some foliage. That sounds like a good idea. As you type ruined in the comments. Let's see, pine tree. Let's do a fan brush. Use this dark color again. Black, brown, blue, red, whole bunch. Just want dark. Drawing this out to a tip. Let's put a pine tree here. That quick, we have a pine. Let's build it. Just using the corner of the brush here. Sorry if I'm in the way of the camera, I don't know. Yeah, I like that pine. That brings out the color. And what's cool is you can still see the fence behind it if you really look. Maybe that's the baby pine, the son of the other. I've been thinking about my father a lot lately because he's in very poor health and in and out of the hospital with pneumonia. Suffers from COPD from smoking for decades. Sad to see he has trouble exhaling, and when he gets sick and he goes right to the hospital. And he said, "Todd, I'm going to die from this one day." And he's in the hospital right now as we speak, recovering from second bout of pneumonia this year. And I think that maybe this tree is me and him. It's a great father. That's Dad, and that's me. He always loved nature. That's why it's so important to just let go of the small stuff in life. Too short. Life is too short. Too short. He always loved me painting. He would actually make frames. He's a master carpenter. And he would, when I painted as a child or as a teenager, he would make frames by hand, and then we would sell my paintings up in Vermont, New Hampshire. We had friends that owned a diner up there, and I would ship my paintings up there and sell them for $50 or $60 or whatever they were back then. And he would make the frames, saved a lot of money. And some people have my paintings somewhere in the world from when I was a kid, if they're labeled still. I did put my name on them. There. See? More interest, more foreground. Let's put a little bit of a hint. Exaggerated here, but a little bit of a trunk, and you would see part of this through. This should pop out in the camera. I think you'll be able to see that, I'm assuming. Let's put a little highlight here. While I'm at it, these trees would have a bit of a highlight. That easy to make a highlight. Sorry if I'm in the way of the camera. I have to get over here. Forgive my ugly face in the middle. Occasional highlight pops through. I don't want that too bright. There, a little bit of a pop. See, those little lights and darks make this really stick out. And then what you can do here with the brush is just take a little bit of this gray, and you can just lay in a couple of broken twigs or things that are popping out. That's the rabbits living there, hiding from the hunter. These little details sometimes really make the painting interesting. Because in the winter you would have all kinds of grasses, long grasses sticking out from previous summer that didn't die off. But everything is that illusion of dark against light. Everything's dark against light. This would have a lot of foliage in it over here. And don't always go straight. Notice how I'm making these different angles here. I want this to look lived in. You could spend hours on these details and maybe bring this out. Make some grass. I'll show you what I do here to make this stick out. Take them dark, make that stick out. How are we doing on time? Guys getting bored? Maybe. It's endless what you can do with this stuff. You can just add layer after layer after layer. Let's put a touch of highlight on that, just a little bit. I want this kind of a light blue. I don't want it to stick out too much. There's a good color. See, just by putting, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, just a little bit of highlight. It breaks up the tree a little. I don't know, maybe you guys can't see it. I can see it here. Yeah, it helps break it up. Little grassy areas here with the blue. Now, for the foreground, what should we do? Should we leave it? You want it just to be kind of a rolling landscape with some snow? We could certainly add more. Could add a house, could add a stone wall, more trees. I'm going to add some dark here because I want to push that back. So I'm going to add one more quick layer. This will be very fast because I already have the brush loaded and ready to go. So when I just bounce this, creates dark, grassy area. Nice. A little bit over here. There's a bush. Can you hear the paint on the microphone? Might be able to hear it. Frame it. Might as well. We're here already. I like that. Look at all the details you get from that big brush. thousands of details. Like you spent months on that. Let's have this come up. Watch this. I'm going to make this disappear with this bush. This comes right up here. Pushes those trees right back into the foreground. This is an easy scene to do. I mean, anyone can do it. It just takes practice. There's nothing hard about this at all. Anyone can do this. Let's do this. I'm going to make a fence here that's bigger because I like the idea of a fence and then a smaller a bigger fence here. And we certainly have no time limit. So I'm going to use a bigger brush for this fence because it's big. I'm using the brown, the black, blue, the same dark color, maybe a little more of the brown. So we have a fence coming through here. Much larger, so we'll make it larger. Posts are wider. Can you see that on the camera? I hope. Might be out of frame a little bit. Pretty much. Big one here, because it's right in front of us. So this one is thick. Look at that. That really pops out dark. But in your world, you make your fence as big or as small as you want. Again, because it's near us, it'll be much bigger, wider, darker. Yeah, that's it. That goes way off the canvas. Now let's add some rails to it, but I'm going to use the thin brush, not the big one. What did I do with that thing? There it is. Let's thin some paint. Go into this rail mixture. Can you see this? I hope so. I'm going to make the dark here where the rail goes in to the fence. Can you see the hole? Maybe not. The camera probably can't pick it up. I'm making the dark hole where the fence post sits, because the eye will pick that up. See how that one curves? That's perspective. Brings your eye into the canvas, into the center. There. Now let's highlight this. I'm going to wash this brush. Give me a moment. Just getting kind of a light brown, white. Adding paint thinner to thin it down. Need some detail on this fence because it's very close. And it would have highlight here, here. See if I can do this so the camera can see it. Again, I'm not spending a lot of time on this. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of a painting to relax to. You can take as much time as you want at your house or apartment, wherever you live. And have fun. There. Putting some twigs, last minute details. Using the light and the dark. Whatever, we don't know what's happening here. It's just a little wooded area. Here's something just to push that fence back. Some grass here. It's endless what you can create. There's literally no rules. Well, a couple perspective rules. Other than that, I'm going to clean up this a bit. Yeah, that's it. I like that white. There. I want this middle part to be really bright. There, see that little highlight of snow? That little highlight just kind of reminds you where the center is, and I'm not going to smooth it out. I'm going to leave it quite rough. Gives it a little bit of texture, because that's where the highlights of the snow would hit. Matter of fact, I need some here too. It's risky to go back to the center, but that looks a little off to me. There. There. Yeah. See that? To me, that brings out that center more. Just these little highlights here make the snow kind of pop. Watch this risky action. Just touching a little here to put a little highlights on the hill. Maybe the sun touched it. Look at that, just a touch. Just a touch there, there, there. It's on the top, it's got to be lighter. There, yeah. See? Just a touch. Sun hit it. See? Just that little bit of white makes it look like something's happening. Alright, I don't want to overdo it. It's an easy painting. Not a lot to it. It's alright. 18 by 24 inch canvas. Snow, yet warm with color. Some basic trees. Pretty dramatic sky, sunset or sunrise, you pick. To me it looks more like a sun setting, but whatever you wish. Have some humankind, a little bit of fence in there. So we're not totally in the mountains. There's a little bit of pastoral care there, maybe a farmer. What part of the country does that remind you of? Does it remind you of the West? Or maybe you don't live in the United States. What country does it remind you of? Russia, perhaps? Finland? Could be anywhere. Idaho, who knows? Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass. No big mountains in Mass. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do I get started in oil painting? Well, if you want to do this style, find the Bob Ross style oil painting kits. You can buy them online. Maybe just pick up what's called a basics kit. There's also what's called a master's kit, which has more equipment in it. It's more expensive. You have to get the liquid white in order to move this wet on wet technique. So if you go to the local store, art store, you're not going to find, you may find Bob Ross paints there. They're really highly priced, overpriced in my opinion. So you may find some at the store. But as I said in the last video, it's not a cheap hobby. Each one of these little rolls of paint here, this might be $10 to $15. Maybe a little less if you can find them on eBay. Then you have the large rolls of paint, which are 5 fluid ounces. These are 1.25. These might be 20 to 30. It depends. The Bob Ross style is becoming more popular, even though he's the late Bob Ross, but his style, a lot of young people and old are picking it up, which is good, because this is a style you want to keep active in the world. There's too much pain and suffering in the world. We need more of this stuff. Need more individualism, where you're sitting by yourself creating without a group, just using your imagination, which we tend to lose as we get older. You know how imaginative we were as kids. I don't want to lose that. And I find myself too, being busy with work and everything else, that you lose your imagination. And that's when depression and sadness and sense of purposelessness sneaks in. Sneaks in because I'm without purpose. You have to find your purpose. And if you can add painting into your life, just like this, an hour every couple weeks, couple hours every month, this will keep your blood pressure down. They make nice gifts for people for birthdays or holidays. You have something to leave when you die eventually. So they, not an heirloom, but there's something that you can pass down to your kids. Make sure you sign your painting. You can either put it very small in the front. I tend to sign mine in the back because I think the painting, I don't like the signatures on the front. Just my personal opinion. But please, paint, do something. And it doesn't have to be oil painting. Pick up acrylics. Acrylic paint is really cheap. Pick up some watercolors and just start to experiment. And you don't have to get expensive canvases. You can get painting paper. Ha, that's for Bob. So as I'm cleaning my brushes here, just another reminder that we have the ability to create. No one should hold us back from what we want to do in life. No one should suppress our creativity. Hopefully you have someone in your life that supports what you want to do. If you have a loved one, a husband, wife, or whatever, that says, hey, go for it. Matter of fact, let's go to the art store. I'd like to contribute a little money to your new hobby. That's great. Forgive me, I'm just cleaning my brushes. I thought we'd just hang for a minute. You have to clean your brushes or you'll end up chucking them out like I did in my last two. That's for you, Bob. What would he say at this point? And thanks from all of us here. Until next time, my friends. Happy painting and God bless. That was his that was his signature saying. Last brush, my friends, last brush to clean. Make sure you have a space that you can paint, so you're going to need a place that can get dirty. Okay, our brushes are clean. Bob is sitting over us watching our little nightscape here. Everything looks good. I'll clean up a little bit more later. I'll let you guys go. I really want to thank you for watching today. I really appreciate it. I think it's time well spent just relaxing and creating. Now is the next step, which is hopefully for you to start to create. And again, it doesn't have to be painting. You pick any medium you want, but do something to allow the emotions inside us to come out on canvas, wherever. Next time, I don't know what we're going to paint. Maybe a seascape. I've had some letters for someone said, can we do a seascape? I think that might be cool because I'm from New England. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, so I know the ocean well. Until next time, my friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I really appreciate your time. And I'll see you next time on the Relaxation with Oil Painting.